Welcome to Phrasal Verb Practice. This is the place to learn real English, one phrasal verb at a time. My name is Marissa, and I'll walk you through this learning journey. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing great. Today, we're diving into the phrasal verb get away. This is a very common phrasal verb in English, and it actually has a few different meanings, but the general idea is usually the same. When we say get away, we're usually talking about leaving a place or situation, sometimes to escape, sometimes to relax, and sometimes to avoid consequences. So let's look at the meanings one by one. First, we use get away to talk about escaping. When someone gets away, it means they successfully escape from someone or something. For example, the thief got away before the police arrived. The mouse got away and ran under the table. He tried to catch the dog, but it got away. So in this sense, the idea is simple. Someone escapes. Now let's look at another very common use of get away. We also use get away when we talk about leaving somewhere to relax. In this case, it usually means taking a short trip or a break from your normal routine. For example, we need to get away for the weekend. She likes to get away to the mountains during the summer. Let's get away for a few days and relax. So here, the idea is not escaping danger. It's more about leaving your daily routine and resting somewhere else. Now there's one more very common meaning. We use get away to talk about avoiding punishment. In this case, the phrasal verb is usually get away with. When someone gets away with something, it means they did something wrong, but they were not punished. For example, he got away with cheating on the test. They got away with breaking the rules. She got away with arriving late again. So the key idea here is doing something wrong and not facing the consequences. Now, let's quickly see how people express the idea of get away in other languages. In Spanish, people usually say something like escapar, irse, or salirse con la suya. In French, you might hear s'échapper or s'en tirer. In Portuguese, it could be escapar, fugir, or sair para descansar. In Italian, people say scappare or falla franca. In German, it's often entkommen or ungestraft davonkommen. In Japanese, the idea is often expressed as naogeru, hineru. And in Chinese, people often say now that, di kai, xiao yao fa guai. Now, when do people usually use get away? People use get away when they want to talk about escaping from something. They also use get away when they want to describe taking a short trip or a break. Sometimes people use get away when someone avoids punishment after doing something wrong. And we also use get away when we talk about leaving a stressful place or situation. Now let's look at a few example sentences that use get away. The robber got away before the police arrived. We decided to get away for a long weekend. I wish I could get away from work for a few days. He got away with lying to his boss. They got away just before the storm started. Now let's talk a little about the grammar of get away. The phrasal verb get away is generally inseparable. That means we normally don't put an object between get and away. So we say, the thief got away. We can also add prepositions to expand the meaning. For example, get away from plus a place or a person. We need to get away from the city. And we also have get away with plus a noun or a verb ending in ing. For example, she got away with the mistake. He got away with lying. Typical structures: get away from plus a place or person, and get away with plus a noun or verb ending in ing. All right, now let's practice. First, you're going to hear a short text from everyday life. Then, you'll hear another text in a professional or office setting. Are you ready? Let's start. Last week was one of those weeks when everything felt a little too busy. Work was intense. My phone kept ringing, and by Thursday afternoon, I felt like I just needed to get away for a while. Not forever, just long enough to clear my mind. That evening, I told my sister, "We should really get away this weekend." She laughed and said she had been thinking the same thing. We didn't want anything complicated. We just wanted to get away from the city, the traffic, and the constant noise. So on Saturday morning, we packed a small bag and drove to a quiet town about 2 hours away. The moment we arrived, it felt good to get away from our normal routine. We found a little cafe, had breakfast, and walked around the town square. It was simple, but it felt great to finally get away. Later that day, we went hiking in a nearby park. My sister joked that the best part of the trip was simply being able to get away from our phones and emails. For a few hours, we really did get away from everything that usually fills our day. That night, we stayed in a small hotel. We sat on the balcony, talked, and watched the sunset. I remember thinking how important it is to sometimes get away and give yourself space to breathe. On Sunday morning, something funny happened. At breakfast, my sister admitted she had secretly eaten the last piece of chocolate we brought for the trip. She smiled and said, "I think I can get away with it, since I drove most of the way here." I laughed and told her she might get away with it this time. When we finally drove back home that afternoon, we both agreed on one thing. Even a short trip can help you get away from stress and come back feeling completely different. Great, that was the first text. How many times did you hear the phrasal verb of the day? Now, let's move on to the second text. Monday mornings in our office are usually busy. Everyone arrives with a long list of tasks, and there's always a meeting to plan the week. Last Monday was especially intense because we were preparing a presentation for an important client. Around 10 in the morning, our manager walked into the meeting room and said, "Before we start, I want everyone to remember to take breaks this week. Even if it's just for a few minutes, sometimes you need to get away from your desk to think clearly." He was right. After 2 hours of reviewing numbers and slides, my head was full. I told my coworker that I was going to step outside for a few minutes just to get away from the screen. Even a short walk around the building helped me get away from the pressure and come back with a clearer mind. Later that afternoon, we noticed a small mistake in one of the reports. Someone had entered the wrong number in the budget summary. Luckily, we caught it early, before sending the file to the client. My colleague joked and said, "Good thing we noticed that, otherwise someone might have tried to get away with it and hoped nobody saw the mistake." Everyone laughed, but we all knew how important accuracy is in our work. In our team, nobody really tries to get away with errors. If something goes wrong, we usually talk about it and fix it together. By Wednesday, the week was still very busy. Our manager reminded us again that it's healthy to get away from work for a few minutes during the day. Sometimes just standing up, stretching, or walking to get coffee helps you get away from stress. At the end of the week, after we finished the presentation and sent it to the client, the whole team felt relieved. One of my coworkers smiled and said, "After this week, I think we all deserve to get away for the weekend." And honestly, everyone in the room agreed. Great, that was the second text, and that's all for today. Thank you for following this channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye!